for a month. I think it's against culture as we know it. It should never be allowed.
It was more that I had some internal scans and they raised a whole series of questions.
Yeah.
So I had to go easy on the one until I worked out what it was.
Yeah.
Are we getting 1 and 2, Robert?
What's that?
The question starting with 1 and 2?
Yeah, we'll start with yeah, I think 1 and 2 is going to be the way to go, because
there's a logic there.
Yeah, there is a logic to that. Because we're tasting primarily Santenay Premier Cru tonight, but the first two are different in as much as the Villes is Santenay but not Premier Cru, and number 2 is a Savigny Premier Cru. So we'll let Justin take us through that when he comes online. This is the time of the night when I'm traditionally so nervous because the winemaker might not get online. Let's see how we go. Worst comes to the worst, we'll just drink them. What I'm going to do, we got a few minutes to go. I was interested to see how these things have evolved. They were double decanted this morning. And the one thing that seems to bind them all together as a producer and as a style and as a vintage is just this incredible ripeness. It was when I was doing the research for tonight, I noticed that Justin, as a rule, doesn't use the stalk. So he pulls the grapes off the bunches before winemaking. It's only in exceptional years that he uses stalks. And that really defines the difference between a bigger, more rustic style Burgundy and one which speaks more of fruit. And I would dare say that this example is all de-stalked as a vinification process.
That Villes a pretty good wine for $39. Christ.
Exactly, yeah. So by way of just taking you guys through that, the Peuillets, which is number 2, is $59. First one is $39, then $59, then 2, 3, 4, and 5 are all $55, and the Chassagne is $69. Given the pricing that I saw at the Berg dinner last night, these are incredibly good value. I'm just going to send Justin an email and find out where he is.
Oh, that's good. There's a big step up, I think.
Well, I'm a big fan of just that sort of just above Village Villes. I really enjoy that as a price point often.
Bit of colour difference. The Savigny Le Bon VV is
well, it's always going to, right?
Brighter red colour.
Yeah.
Doesn't have that slight mahogany character.
Yeah. And you can actually see, like if you do the phenolics of 2 through 5, very obviously 2's from a different part of Burgundy. There's definitely something that binds 3, 4, and 5 together.
Better not drink it all until the guy comes on. This once again got slight more mahogany character, not just that vivid pinky red. It's really nice on the nose. It's more earthy than the VV.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Just don't tell Justin that his wines are too cheap.
No, I never raised that issue with the winemaker. The only thing I ever tell him is when it's too expensive.
Is there a reason though? I mean, where can you get a VV red Burgundy for $39 these days? I mean, the supermarket Pinot Noirs cost that much.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also ratified. I mean, Justin's just come on, so we'll ask him that question. Bonjour, Justin. He was there.
Mate, your French is as bad as your Italian. Seriously.
Bonjour, bonjour. That's better. Bonjour. Okay, we've unmuted him. I just need to get him to open it.
Does he speak Afrikaans?
we might have to try that. Hey, Justin, can you hear us?
Yes, I hear us very well.
Okay.
And you?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Lost. Yeah, we can. We can see you. We're lost in the vineyard.
If you can just open your video.
Yes. Oh, that's it.
Perfect.
Yeah, good.
How are you? I like your artwork behind you, Justin. It's perfect. I need one of those for my home. So everybody, welcome, particularly Justin. I know this is a crazy time in the vineyards when you're dealing with pruning, and this has been this immense winter. I'm very jealous to read about how much snow there is in Europe at the moment, and that it's not good for winemakers. Just by way of a small introduction for everybody, Justin is the 13th generation of his family that has been involved in wine. The family's been in the region since 1570. But it's interesting for me doing the research, Justin, to actually conceive of Burgundy being a place where people used to have livestock and crops. I mean, my entire understanding of Burgundy is that, it's wine. The idea of anyone doing anything other than putting vines down in Burgundy, it's amazing. But your family went solely into wine probably just after the First World War, and certainly way after Phylloxera, which is a chance of happenstance for you guys. Definitely Santenay specialists, and I'd like to talk a little bit more with you about that during the night. But we were just chatting before we came online about the extraordinary value that's represented in your line of wines in relation to just how much is out there and the incredible cost of Burgundy these days. So on that note, I'm going to hand over to you and ask you to talk us through.
Okay. Thanks for the presentation, Robert. So my name is Justin Girardin. As Robert said, I am the 13th generation of wine grower and winemaker in Burgundy. Actually, we were more a farmer, and it's my grandfather who decided to focus on the wine production after the Second World War. Yes, so now we have 17 hectares spread out in different villages, only in Côte de Beaune. From Savigny to Marange, so it's 25 kilometers away from the two villages, and of course mainly in Santenay, because our estate was established in Santenay since long years ago. What we can say about our estate is maybe yes, a historic family. My father, when he took over the estate, he started with 3 hectares of vines, as all of the other brothers. Maybe Vincent is also well known in Singapore. He also started with 3 hectares. So the estate was divided in four, 3 brothers and 1 sister. And still now, everyone are making wine. Even if Vincent sold his company maybe 10 years ago now. And me, I took over the estate in 2010 for the first vintage I made. I'm still working with my parents. It's a family wine estate, so it's very small. We produce 100,000 bottles a year, so it's quite small, and this is why we still work in family. What else I can say? Yes, I think I say everything that just for a quick presentation.
Before we dive into the Santenays and the Savigny, could you maybe define for us in one sort of short paragraph what you see the attributes of Savigny Burgundy that are Santenay as different from anywhere else in Burgundy. What are the specific attributes that we should look for in Santenay?
Yeah, so yes, Santenay is not the very well-known appellation. It's close to Chassagne-Montrachet. Chassagne-Montrachet, everyone knows Chassagne-Montrachet. But Santenay is as a small villages as we have in Burgundy, as maybe Marange, Chorley-Bourg, Montly, or Cédurès. Small villages that years ago, the one from Santenay was tannic, rough, a little bit austere. But since a few years ago now, 20, 30 years ago, the new generation of wine grower make a big progress on the wine in Santenay, and we have a particular village. I mean, a lot of beautiful landscape in Santenay because a lot of Morgeot. It's a wall because on Santenay we have different terroir, very different terroir because we have a lot of line fault on Santenay. So what I can say about Santenay is a village that the wine has now very open, very elegant and easy to drink at a very good value for Premier Cru. If you do a blind test, I do often a blind testing with or one or my other colleague wines from Santenay to sometime in Côte de Nuit, and for the same quality of wine, the price is completely different. But Santenay, it's pity, but Santenay is not very well known abroad. So, but we have to work on this way to.
Well, as one of my clients here online just before you came, we're actually quite happy for Santenay not to have a big global profile because the pricing is so extraordinarily good by comparison to the more famous villages. As consumers, we're very happy for it to stay that way. But Justin, maybe let's kick off with the Vignes. So we're tasting the Santenay Vignes 2018. This is a wine enthusiast 90 points and $39 in online from us tonight. So maybe you can talk us through this.
So Santenay Vignes. So all of the wine we taste is it's 18. So it will be interesting. So just to speak about the vintage 18. Very great vintage in Burgundy, very easy to make wine in 18, grapes were very healthy without disease. So quite easy to make a red wine in 18. So the Santenay Vignes. So we have more than 3 hectares in Santenay, and we do this cuvée, the Vignes, because the wine has at least 40 years old. And the particularity of our Santenay is we have our Santenay situated up to the Premier Cru, so it's on the limestone soil, not on the clay soil that you can find on the bottom of the appellation. This is why this Santenay, so the 18 Vignes, it's very elegant and very easy to drink for 18. You can really enjoy it right now. So it's, for me, it's difficult to say this one tastes raspberry because it's very subjective for me. So I will not say anything on this way. But what I can say about the wine, the structure and the texture is because of the soil and the limestone soil on the villages of Santenay. This wine is, yes, very, very fine. It's aging in 12 months in French oak barrels, 15 new oak barrels. Not so much. I don't like when it's too oaky, just to bring complexity to the wine, not to hide the aromas or something like that. 12 months, I think it's a good thing. It's not too long, not too short. And
I think
yes,
the thing that impresses me the most about it tonight from where I'm sitting is this kind of oily texture in the mid palate, which is just glorious. It has this beautiful glycerine kind of component it's not something that I look for in a sub $40 wine. I think that's a big star maker for me in the wine. There's ripeness, but it's not flabby. Everything is in the right place and quite poised. How old are the vines? I mean, Girardin by definition old vines, but how old really are they?
At least 45-year-old. I mean, we have some vines who have, because on the Santenay, we have maybe 15 different parcels. So the youngest at 45-year-old and the oldest it's 70-year-old. And I do so it's a blend of different parcels. And the blend is different. It depends on the vintage. If it's a very warm vintage, I will select different parcel as if it's a very cool vintage. So and we are lucky to keep the acidity on the wine on 18 because it was a very warm vintage, but because of the exposition and the situation of those parcels, we still have the very freshness and acidity.
I would say that from decanting all the wines tonight, the thing that maybe the string that binds them all from a characteristic point of view is freshness, ripeness without flabbiness, and beautiful acidity. All of them will show that tonight. I'm very sure of that.
Yep.
So big thumbs up for the kickoff for tonight, Justin. Thank you. So
hey, Justin. Hi, it's Lou.
Hi. How are you? Fine?
Hey, I'm well, my friend. Hey, what sort of production do you get off these old vines? How many bottles a year are you making?
We made, depending on the year for sure, but 100,000 bottles a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for the rest, is that sort of typical across the whole range that we're trying tonight? Is that the sort of production level you get for all of your different labels, or it varies?
Sorry, say again, please. Sorry.
Is that the same production for all of your production, or all of your different lines, or is it different for each one?
It's the same. We have only one. I'm not sure to understand, but it's we have only one range of wine with one label. So it's.
No, that's okay.
I don't know if I answer your question. Sorry.
No, that's right. So, for instance, we're about to try the Peuillets. Okay. So, what production do you make of that wine? The second wine that we're about to try.
The first one, the Santeny Vignes, sorry. Yeah.
The first one is 100,000. The second one is.
No. Sorry. So the total production is 100,000 bottles a year. So the Santeny Vignes we made a little bit less than 10,000 bottles a year.
Oh, is that all? Okay. Wow.
Yes,
okay.
it's yeah. And this is of the range that we will test. Not the biggest, but almost the biggest production.
They get progressively smaller as we head to Chassagne. So towards the end, they just the parcels get tinier and tinier.
Yeah. Sorry. Yes.
No problem. So let's move on to the Savigny. The first thing that's really interesting, of course, it's a totally different site from number one, but I like the sort of chestnut. There's a beautiful top note of nuts in it, which is going to probably be a differential between it and the other Santenays tonight. I would dare say it's not going to show quite as overtly in that. And so you're talking about a much smaller site now. And if I have my Burgundy geography right, which probably isn't, am I right in understanding that Savigny is the closest region to the Côte de Nuit? So it's very north of Beaune and almost neighboring the Nuit.
Yes, it's Clos, not the last village, but Clos. It's after that you have Alox-Corton still in Côte de Nuit, in Côte de Beaune, sorry, but Savigny-les-Beaunes is close to the north part of the Côte de Beaune. So this one is it's a Premier Cru from Savigny-les-Beaunes. The name is called les Peuillets. So in Old French, that means bad
bad herbs. I mean, because centuries ago, before Burgundy as vineyard, we were it was a cereals field, and it was not so good for cereals because it's too poor. But for the one part of vineyard, it's perfect. It's very so it's very limestone soil, very poor soil. I mean, the bedrock is maybe at some place it's 40 centimeters to the top, so it's very low. And so in 18, so the Savigny-les-Beaunes is Savigny-les-Beaunes. Usually, people say Savigny-les-Beaunes is very feminine wine, very elegant, and this is a premier cru situated in the south part of Savigny-les-Beaunes, close to Beaune. It's for me one of a good terroir in Savigny-les-Beaunes, and on this vintage we have. I mean, yes, we have everything, because sometimes Savigny-les-Beaunes lacks structure, but on the 18 we have structure, soft tannin,
it's that soft, almost prettiness about it, which is quite interesting, and really I love the brown nuts influence, which gives it the form, but there's not too much tannic gravitas to the wine. I really like its lightness. Certainly at this stage, it really is great. I think it's again great acids, Justin. I think the acids in the wine is fantastic, and it's definitely expressing its soil. It's definitely showing where it's from. It's
For me, what is important, I live in Burgundy, I make wine in Burgundy, and what is important is to see the difference on each terroir, and this is why we don't make a lot of things during the winemaking part. We spend a lot of time in our vineyard to understand and the vine, and to observe and to understand. And after that, during the winemaking part, it's very easy, very simple, natural yeast for all of the wine we made. And we just add sulfate to the wine just to give the wine, but that's it. We don't use any chemical products that, and we don't have enologue. It's only by ourselves. It's by our feeling, and yes. So this is very important to test terroir.
Definitely.
From our wine. And for this wine, we made 3,000 bottles a year. So yes.
What's your biggest export market for your Premier Cruise? Where do they go predominantly?
The biggest. So our biggest market is the US. So it's difficult now with the tax, 25% tax in the US. But for the Premier Cru, also the UK, England, it's a very great market for the Premier Cru.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So now we're on to the Santenay, the 3 Santenay Premier Crus. It might be fun, Justin, for everyone to taste these 3 side by side and to try to differentiate the different characteristics between them. So maybe if we just have a quick smell of the 3 and see how we feel about them, and then go from there. In the meantime, maybe you can tell us a little bit about altitude difference between the 3 wines. So Beaugerard, Maladiere, and Rousseau.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I can show you on the map.
I
don't know if it will work. We will try. I don't. Tell me if you see something.
Yeah. Perfect.
Can you see the? I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's difficult for me. So we have Beaugerard. Can you see on my finger?
I can't actually. You're gonna have to put your finger on it for us on the plot for us to see where it is.
Yeah. So you see my finger or not? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Beaugerard, it's situated in the north part of the appellation, close to Chassagne-Montrachet. Then, so there's the Maladiere. It's very in the middle of the appellation, in the center. And then Clos on the south part of Santenay, close to Marange. So
Clos Rousseau, if I remember from the PowerPoint when I did it for you before, Clos Rousseau is on the as far west as you can go in that pink strip of Premier Cru. So it's right on the edge of the region of the village itself, right? And so it's as far to the left, to the west. Is that right?
To the south, it's in the left part of the Santenay, but it's in the south of the code of the Santenay appellation.
Okay, got it.
So three very different terroirs, because one is on the north, one in the middle, and one on the south part. So we start with the Beaugerard. Why we start with the Beaugerard? Because Beaugerard, it's so it's a bit higher in altitude. It's 300 meters. If you compare to other Maladiere and Rousseau, is 250 meters and 270 meters. So in Beaugerard means nice view. So we have a windmill there. So it's very windy. And the soil and it's limestone as always, but the one is the first on the three Premier Crus. Beaugerard the easiest to drink right now, to taste. You don't have to wait. You enjoy right now. Just after, even just after the bottling, it's a Premier Cru. You can enjoy right now the very soft tannin. Then we have Maladiere. So Maladiere. Maladiere. The meaning of the name Maladiere, it's centuries ago there was a Maladiere. It's a place where we treat the lepers. So it's a little bit strange. But so Maladiere in terms of altitude, so it's a bit, it's, as I said, 260 meters around.
I would argue that the Maladiere is, for me, more rustic. There's definitely more tannic grip in the mid palate. It's definitely not as forward and effusive as the Beaugerard is right now.
Correct.
So if you're losing track of the numbers, the Maladiere is number 4 and the Beaugerard is number 3.
Yeah. And so I agree with you. Maladiere always, when it's young, it's a little bit austere or masculine, I mean, a little bit more tannin. But yes, after a few years, it will be better and more open. So usually, also, what is strange with Maladiere, usually you feel.
Robert, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit confused because I have here number 3 is Rousseau, 4 is Maladiere, 5 is Beauregard.
No. If you have a look at the chat, you'll see the lineup. We changed the lineup a few days ago. So have a look at the chat.
No, my whole preparation.
So the first one was not the Montrachet.
Look in the chat. The Chassagne is the last one, number 6.
Yeah.
So have a look in the chat. Are you guys looking? I'll run you through it. 1 is Villes, 2 is the Savigny Peuillets, 3 is Beaugerard.
Beauregard, you idiot.
South African pronunciation is very exclusive.
Right.
Number 4 is Maladiere.
Maladiere.
Number 5 is Clos Rousseau. I can't get that wrong because
you didn't fuck that up. Well done.
Okay. You guys got it.
Good. Okay.
So, you got it now. All right. Let's go back. Justin?
Yeah. So we are in the Maladiere. So usually a little bit more dark fruit on the Maladiere than the Beaugerard. Usually we have more wet fruit on the Beaugerard. So the tannin is a little bit more present. It's a deeper wine, more structure. So you have to wait a little bit more than Beaugerard, for sure.
I have to say that the Rousseau is the winning wine for me of the 3 because of the texture. The texture on Rousseau, number 5, is just this beautiful, silky softness. it just is so amazingly impressive, even at this young stage.
I agree, Rob. I agree.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see what that looks like in 2 years or so. That evolution is going to be exciting to watch.
So Clos, it's a historic parcel we always have from our family. We're very proud of this terroir. And as you said, it's especially on the warm vintage as 18, 19 was Clos show very well, and the old of the vine is very old. We have 5 different parcels in Clos from 40 years old to 80. It's small berries, and this is also why we get the soft and silky tannin of the Clos, but it can also show very well after 5 10 years keeping in your cellar. So Clos, it's we have, if you compare Beaugerard, Maladiere, and Clos, you have the easiest way to drink from the Beaugerard, and the structure and the deep on the Maladiere. So you have everything on the Clos. And it's a good if you want to think about the Santenay Premier Cru, Clos, it's yes, it's a good resume to all of the to the wine from Santenay, I think. Yeah.
I'm so glad that you got me to realign the lineup tonight, because the progression from Beaugerard. Now I don't know how to pronounce it, since Lou corrected me. He's messed me up completely. So the B word, the first one, the progression from that to Maladiere and then onto Rousseau is great, because your reference about it being Beaugerard being the more feminine expression, Maladiere being the more masculine, and then Rousseau just being this amazing unicorn of a wine. I think it's spectacularly good. And again, at the price point that we have at $55, it's very difficult to beat at that sort of quality level. I think it's a big winner.
Yeah, I agree with that. And for all of the wine, it's the same aging, 18 months aging in oak barrels, and 20% new oak barrel for all of the 3.
Yeah. Sorry, we just got somebody.
Okay. All
right, let me see if I can find you and pin you. I'm going to pin you as the primary person, so we don't lose you again. Yeah, Danny, I'll put all the prices in an email later, as soon as we finish the talk, the pitch. So you'll get a direct link to buy what you need. So Justin, can we get on to the Chassagne now, which is a totally different region? So what's the background? Because clearly you guys started in Santenay, and Santenay is really what you grounded in. At what point did you start to move into the other regions?
It's not me, because now the price of the parcel in Burgundy is too expensive. I'm very lucky to cover the estate was well established. So my father bought that when he took over his estate at the very beginning, when the price was okay, if you work hard. He managed to buy this parcel in Chassagne and also in Savigny. So it's very, very tiny parcel, tiny production on the Chassagne red. We made only 1,000 bottles a year. So for everyone, Chassagne is very well known for the white, for sure. But you just have to know that Chassagne, 15 years ago, 70% of the appellation or 80% of the appellation was red wine in Chassagne. So now it's more fashion to have white in Chassagne, but still we have very great soil for red wine and Pinot Noir in Chassagne-Montrachet. The soil is very rich in iron oxide, as the same soil as you can find in Gevrey-Chambertin and Côte de Nuit. So it's very interesting soil for the Pinot.
You're saying that Chassagne, the characteristics can be drawn as a similarity to, what's the second region that you said is very similar?
From which region you say?
Oh, I just caught the end of that sentence. I was just Chassagne-Montrachet, how would you compare it to Santenay as a style? For me, it's much bigger. There's more tannic structure, more sort of effusive and grand, I would say.
Yeah. It's completely different. Santenay, when it's for example, Maladiere, it's a little bit we have more tannin, but Chassagne is when it's young. For me, it's personally is not a good thing to say, but at the very beginning, it's difficult to taste Chassagne because it's quite shy, quite austere at the beginning. But you have to wait 2 years, 3 years ago, 2-3 years, sorry, to have a complete aromas and a great texture on the Chassagne. So for sure, Chassagne is bigger than Santenay and Savigny bone. It's deeper, but you have a very long finish, and you can see the potential on the wine. Even in 18 start to drink very well right now. After bottling, you usually have to wait at least 1 or 2 years before very enjoy the wine.
I kind of had this sense of anticipation with the Chassagne. You know that it's all there, and you can see the depth in the mid palate, but it's just not ready to open up quite yet. But you know that it's going to be spectacular in a year, 18 months.
This is why it's sometimes difficult to do a tasting with the Chassagne. People have to know about Chassagne and what is the potential, because at the beginning, if you compare, for example, to the Beaugerard, Beaugerard, you can enjoy right now, and Chassagne, you say, it's pity, I expected more, but you will have more.
In the fullness of time.
No worries about that. Yeah.
So I have a question for you, Justin. Your style of winemaking is, as a rule, not to include stalks in the vinification, only in exceptional years. So are the exceptional years when it's very hot? Is that when you feel like the Beaumet can handle additional tannics combination in the wines? In particular, with reference to Santenay is what I'm really interested in.
Yes, it's what usually, as you said, I don't use the steam. The steam and to the wine, and I started my first try in 2015 with some steam to the wine. Not so much. I'm not a very fond of a whole cluster vinification.
Because in the new world, it's definitely a style, and there's certain winemakers who embrace it completely, and they are quite successful with the results. But there's also a lot of winemakers who aren't successful with it, and the result is a green, tannic, unbalanced expression. Sure. And certainly what you've achieved in this 18, I would say, is you haven't used stalks, stems. For me, it just tastes like clean, pristine fruit that seems to go all the way through the vintage.
So in 18, then maybe I use 5 or 10% in each wine of world cluster. It's very few. Same as 19, because it was very warm vintage. I just add some steam to the wine because it brings some freshness a little bit. But I don't want to have green tannin or something rough. So you have the steam have to be very ripe, and it's not always the case. So this is why I only use world cluster in a very warm vintage.
So the warm vintages dictate the need for more structure from a riper grape. Is that the formula, the approach, the assumption? Okay. So there's another question from Colin. Would you mind summarizing the élevage from 1 through to 6? And it's a really interesting question. I mean, in Burgundy, just the slightest difference in élevage changes everything in the grape. So it'll be quite interesting to see it, particularly the 3 Premier Cru Santenays. So maybe you can summarize for us. Number 1, the Villes, what is the élevage?
So yes, the first one, the Santenay Vignes, it's 12 months aging in French oak barrels and 15% new oak. For the Premier Cru, Savigny-les-Beaunes and Santenay, it's 18 months aging
because it's a premier cru, so it's not a problem to keep the wine longer and in the barrels. So 18 months aging in French oak barrels, 20% new, a little bit more than the village because usually there is more structure in the premier cru and it's well integrated. It's easier to integrate the barrels to the wine when it's a premier cru. And for the Chassagne, it's 18 months or so, 25% new of barrels. Because more you get power on the wine, more you can add some new oak because the wine will integrate the wine easily. Sorry?
We have a question from the Dutch Cooking Club. What's the question?
So I'm wondering about these wines. Some of these wines really become very different when they've been in the glass for a minute or 5 or 10.
Yeah.
What is with these wines your recommended time? Do you decant these wines or do you just open the bottle?
Well, let me share what I did with them tonight for you guys. I opened them at 10:30 this morning, and I double decanted them and let them stand open in the jars for an hour. So they'd had a great exposure to the elements, and more so than you'd normally expect from just opening a bottle and decanting it. And I have to say, in the last 18 months, the more and more I do these events, the more interested I am in giving more and more time to the wine.
Yeah.
So what I did last night was we did some 2015 Guillons, and I opened them at 4 o'clock and decanted them at 4 o'clock. And we tasted them at 7:30. And the difference was remarkable. It really was incredible. So I want to swing it back to Justin to ask his opinion on this. But certainly, given that we're living in a dangerous country for environment, right? So it needs to be it needs to be air conditioned and not too much humidity to get the best out of it. But the more and more I do these tastings with you guys, the more inclined I am to open it and let the wine just find its feet. I really am. So Justin, what do you think?
Yeah, it's much better, especially in the very young vintage as 18. Usually me, I open the bottle half a day before pour the wine.
Oh, really? Okay.
To my friend or to the family, especially when it's young. If it's 5 or 10 years old bottle, I will not do that because Pinot Noir is very yes, it's very special and very delicate, so and can oxidize quite quickly. But when it's young, no problem. It's maybe even better that aromas can develop easily after half day.
A question for Mark is, for the 18s, what sort of aging? It's very hard because each one of your children probably need different time. But as a rule of thumb, the 2018s, what do you think about aging?
About aging?
Yeah. What do you think about for Santenay 18? I think the Chassagne will have a different profile, but Santenay 18s, how long do you think they should be selling?
This is a tough question because it depends really how you like Pinot Noir. Because if you like Pinot Noir on the fruit, you should drink quite early. I mean, in the until 2004, 2005 is not a problem. But after that, the palate and the aromas will change with more forest aromas or mushroom or something like that. So it's really depend on what you like. I think the good middle is to doing the wine. So the Santenay Vieille, for example, you can enjoy right now. It's easy. It's a good wine to enjoy right now. You can keep 1, 2, or 3 years, no problem. We'll be the same ones that you taste today.
Sounds good.
And the premier cru, maybe a little bit. You have to keep a little bit longer.
A little longer. Oh, that Clos Rousseau. I just want to see. I know where it's going, and in a year's time, my God, that's going to be insane.
Robert.
Yeah.
So on the, it's a bit counterintuitive to me. What you were just saying, right, about the older wines. Are we talking about? Is this about the region where older wines That's
No, no. We're talking about Santenay 2018s. How long should they
Yeah.
last? Or, the cellaring, and it seems from Justin's point of view is that if you're looking for a younger expression of wine, his Premier Crus are ready to go, and I totally agree.
Yeah.
And maybe some more than others. For example, I think that Rousseau is. I keep banging on about it. I think it's amazing. The Beaugerard #3 as well. It's lending a different kind of character. It's more whimsical, more lacy, and very, very pretty in its own right. The Chassagne definitely is too early. The Chassagne, I would wait at least a year or 18 months before I looked at it again. It's a different child. It's from a totally different place, and the tannic structure is so different.
so the Chassagne, right? It's number 6, right?
Yeah.
Could we open those bottles now to let them breathe already, or is that not necessary?
Oh, definitely. If you're going to drink the Chassaignes now, open them the day before, like Justin said. Like give them a day or a day and a half of oxidization.
We get in the DeLorean and then we'll do that.
Yeah. Any more? Byron has said, personally very impressed with Beaugerard, expressive with a sweet red fruit and delicate floral note. Mate, the one thing I was thinking about the Beaugerard, whatever pronunciation, is that you know that notion of laciness. There's that kind of prettiness about the Beaugerard that definitely comes through for me in quite a big way, and no more so than in any of the others. I think 3 definitely shows that, definitely.
Mhm.
Any more questions? Peter, you haven't asked anything tonight. What's
No,
going on?
I'm not going to ask anything. I'm going to pay you a compliment, Robert, because in general, I believe Pinot Noir is one of the most difficult grapes there is for. You know, it's such a delicate grape, and in this climate in Singapore, the way you guys managed to bring that to our places at home in a perfect condition, I'm amazed at how you do this.
Well,
because,
I have to say, anybody who takes these wines online from us, especially when we're having Burgundies, is it's coming SIA Seat 1A. It gets its own air-conditioned car. We do.
Yeah, I know, but
sure it's also very difficult.
But I've bought wines here in Singapore, Robert, where and initially I bought them in supermarkets, and all the wines were cooked. It was terrible. It was just terrible. Because Justin doesn't realize this. It is 30 degrees C here, 24/7, and it's the most delicate climate to handle a wine. And the way Robert and his team do these kind of tastings and bring this home to us is like amazing, and I'm really grateful to it, Robert.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Any more questions before we let Justin go to lunch? Justin, thanks so much for joining us today. It was such a great tasting. You're of course welcome to come and eat cassoulet or confit duck with us anytime you decide to come to Singapore. Please do that. We have a big fan base here.
Yeah. Robert, one thing I will point out before we leave, Justin, is that we were planning to show some of Justin's whites tonight as well, but you buggers all bought them all. Yeah. So we don't have any.
Grant you one of them.
Yeah, I've literally just ordered the 2019s from Justin. He's bottling them this next week for us. So in about 6 weeks we should have them, I hope.
Excellent. Oh, that's
great. And Robert, if you could learn to say Chassagne and not Chassagne, that would be really appreciated as well.
I can't even say domain, Peter.
Peter, it's not going to happen.
Sorry, but you know. And I know I'm Flemish, and the Dutch guys will resonate with me. It's not easy to speak French, but Chassagne versus Chassagne, it's pretty easy.
And Peter, there's a very difficult name, Beauregard, which no one's ever heard of.
Yeah, okay.
Well, Justin, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to switch off the recording so we can behave badly now. Thank you for coming. And everybody, Justin, we hope to see you here soon, or we'll taste online with you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.